Good evening, boys and girls. Tonight's lesson is a review night for Chapter 10 for measurement because tomorrow is our test. Your job is to study for this test by going through these questions in this homework. You need to record your answers on notebook paper to bring to class tomorrow. So if you don't have notebook paper in front of you, please pause the video now to go get your paper. Since the goal of tonight's lesson is to make sure that you are ready for the test, your job is to do the question on your own. Pause the video and work your question out. Then, of course, your job is to press play and see, did you get the answer correct? So let's start with this first question. It says, Mrs. Young spent 34 days traveling across the United States. How many weeks and days did Mrs. Young spend traveling? Use your conversion chart shown on this screen to help you solve this question. Press pause now. For this question, you should have been paying attention to this section of your conversion chart. 7 days equals 1 week. Now, because we're converting days to weeks, we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So we're going to divide. I want to divide 34 days by 7 days because I know 7 days equals 1 week. 7 goes into 34 a total of 4 times. 4 times 7 means that we've used up 28 of our days. And of course, when you subtract, you should have gotten 6 days left. So my 4 tells me how many weeks that I spent traveling. 4 weeks. My remainder was how many days were left over. So I traveled for 4 weeks and 6 days. Wow, that sounds like a great vacation. All right, let's go to our next question. All right, for our next question it says, Mr. Nelsen made 3 quarts of lemonade for the 5th grade graduation. He said that he made 3/4 of a cup of lemonade. Explain Mr. Nelsen's mistake in part A. Then, in part B, how many cups are actually in 3 quarts? Now, if you use our conversion chart that I have with our giant G right here, this should be able to help you. So go ahead and pause the video and write your answers. Then we can check together. Press pause now. Here's what I wrote down for part A. I said that he confused the word cup with gallon. Because 3/4 of a cup is less than 1 cup, that's going to be very small. Now if you look up here at this conversion chart, you can see that 1 cup is that little. But he's saying he only made 3/4 of a little cup. Obviously that doesn't make sense. So let's look at our question. It said Mr. Nelsen made 3 quarts of lemonade. Well, if you look right here, here's 1 quart, 2 quarts, 3 quarts of lemonade for the 5th grade graduation. He didn't make 3/4 of a cup of lemonade. He instead made 3/4 of a gallon. So I'm going to write 3/4 of a gallon is what he really made. I'm going to put that right there. Now let's look at part B. It says how many cups are in 3 quarts? Well, just use your conversion chart over here to see. I have 3 quarts. Now I can see that there are how many cups in my 3 quarts? I have 4 cups in 1 quart, so that'd be 4, 8, 12. So we would say that there are 12 cups in 3 quarts. I hope your answer matched mine. Okay, for question 3, it says Mrs. Wingo filled 140 glasses with juice for a school party. If each glass holds 1 cup of juice, how many quarts of juice did Mrs. Wingo use? In other words, we're saying she has 140 cups because each glass holds 1 cup of juice. So I want to know 140 cups equals how many quarts? You're going from cups to quarts, smaller to larger. So go ahead and pause your video to see how many quarts Mrs. Wingo used. Since you're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you're going to divide. So you should have divided 140. Now what are we dividing by? Well, we have to know how many cups are in a quart. So if you look at our chart over here, I can see in 1 quart there are 1, 2, 3, 4 cups. So we would have 140 divided by 4. So let's go ahead and work that out. 140 divided by 4. I know 4 can go into 14 tens 3 times. And when you multiply, you can see you have 2 tens left over and bring down your 0 ones. Now I know that 4 can go into 20 ones 5 times. So I've used up my 20 ones and I have a 0 remainder left. So we can say that 140 cups divided by 4 would give me 35 quarts. And that, I hope that your answer had matched my answer. All right, let's move on to our next question. For our next question, I want you to read it along with me. It says, Joshua and his friends went to a concert that started at 7:40 p.m. The concert ended at 9:25 p.m. So here's our question for part A. How long was the concert? It was how many hours, and the remainder will be your minutes that are left over. I want you to go ahead and draw a line and pause the video and work this question out to see his elapsed time, to know how long it took him to be at the concert. All right, so on your number line, you should have started with 7:40, and maybe you did something like this. You did a jump to show 1 hour, which would be 8:40. Now, if I did one more jump for 1 hour, it would actually put me over 9:25 because I would jump a whole hour and it would be 9:40. And I know that the concert ends at 9:25. So I'm going to do a smaller measurement. I'm going to jump to make it to 9 o'clock. And I know from 8:40 to 9 o'clock, that's just 20 minutes. Now from 9 o'clock, I could just jump to 9:25. And that shows 25 minutes. So I know that the total amount of time that he was at the concert was 1 hour and 20 minutes plus 25 minutes. Combining my minutes together, I can see that that would be 45 minutes. So he was at the concert for 1 hour and 45 minutes. I hope that's what you have on your paper. Now let's look at our next part of the question for part B. Now part B says, Joshua got home 40 minutes after the concert. What time did Joshua get home? Explain how you found your answer. So the information from part A will help you solve part B. Now you notice in part A, the concert was over at 9:25 p.m. Our job is to figure out what time he got home. You need to add 40 minutes to 9:25 p.m. to find your answer. So press pause now and show your work. Now you might do yours a little bit differently than I am, but we should get the same results. I want to go all the way to 10 o'clock because I know that's a good benchmark to go to. So when I do my math, I know from 9:25 to 10 o'clock p.m., that's going to be a total of 35 minutes. But I know I have to go 40 minutes after the concert. So I'm just going to add another 5 minutes to equal my 40 total minutes. And that puts Joshua home from the concert at 10:05 p.m. I hope your answer was like mine, that you ended up at 10:05 p.m. All right, let's go to our next question. All right, looking at our fifth style of question, this is a true or false question. So there's 4 parts to it. So I want you to go ahead and press pause, and I want you to write your answers for true or false for each one of these. Now you may use this conversion chart to help you find your answers. Go ahead and press pause now, and we'll check our answers together. All right, for the first one you should have said false, because if you look right here, you can see that 1 ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. So 2,000 pounds cannot be greater than 1 ton. Now let's look at our next question. For this one, you should have said true. And the reason why is because 3 pounds is greater than 45 ounces. Because if you look over here, 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So 16 times 3 would be 48. So I know 48 ounces is greater than 45 ounces. For the third one, you should have said true. And the reason why it's true is because it says 2 pounds equals 32 ounces. If you look up here, I see 1 pound is 16 ounces. So 2 pounds would be 32 ounces. So it does equal that value. Now the last one says 67 ounces is less than 4 pounds and 5 ounces. For this, you should have probably converted all of this to ounces only. So I know 4 pounds and 5 ounces. Well, first of all, I want to multiply 16 ounces times 4 to get how many ounces are in 4 pounds. And I can see that that would equal 64 ounces. But then I want to add my extra 5 ounces. So altogether, that would be 69 ounces. So let's look at our question. It says 4 pounds 5 ounces, which we know is 69 ounces, is greater than 67. And that is a true statement because 69 is greater than 67. I hope our answer is matched. Okay, let's take a look at this next question. It says Miss Perez bought 33 yards of fabric to make costumes for the school play. How many inches of fabric did Mrs. Perez buy? Using your conversion chart, go ahead and work this problem out. Press pause now. So as you can see on our conversion chart, it says 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, but 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. For this activity, you need to convert these 33 yards into inches. So you're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. And remember, when you go from a large to a small, you multiply because you're going to have more inches than you will yards. So you should have told yourself that there are 36 inches in 1 yard, because if 1 yard equals 3 feet, there's my 3 feet, and each foot has 12 inches. Then you would have 36 inches for 1 yard. So as you know, you should have multiplied 33 times 36. So after working it out, you should have got 1,188 inches of fabric that Miss Perez bought. Let's go on to our next problem. So for our next question, it says, select the object that holds the same amount of liquid as 3 quarts. Mark all that apply. So you're going to look at all these choices and see which ones have the same equivalence of 3 quarts. Go ahead and press pause and then check your answer along with me. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this first one. It's letter A. It says 8 1-pint bottles. Now, boys and girls, if you look over here and I look at the green letter P's, remember each one represents 1 pint. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8. And as you can see, that would represent 4 quarts. Therefore, I know A would not be correct. But I do know letter B says 6 1-pint bottles. And if you look over here, I have 2, 4, 6 1-pint bottles. And that fills up 3 quarts. So I would know that B would be a correct statement. Now let's look at letter C. 1 1-quart bottle and 8 1-cup glasses. So if we look over here, I see 1-quart bottle and 8 1-cup glasses would be 1 quart and 2, 4, 6, 8 1-cup glasses. Therefore, I know C would also represent 3 quarts. For letter D, it says 2 1-quart bottles and 4 1-pint bottles. So let's look. 2 1-quart bottles would be these 2 quarts right here, and 4 1-pint bottles would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Therefore, that would represent 4 quarts. So I also know that D would not work. But letter E says 2 1-quart bottles and 4 8-ounce fluid glasses. So let's take a look. 2 1-quart bottles would be 1, 2, and 4 8-ounce glasses would represent 4 cups. 1, 2, 3, 4. Therefore, that would show 3 quarts. So I also know that E would represent 3 quarts as well. I hope you picked B, C, and E as well. Let's go on to our next question. For our next question, it says, a fish tank holds 12 gallons of water. John is using a 1-quart container to fill the fish tank. Complete the table to help you find the number of quarts of water that John will need to fill the fish tank. So we're going to be using this table to help us find the number of quarts that it takes him to fill the fish tank compared to the gallons of water. So let's look at our chart right here. I have 1 gallon is equal to how many quarts? I want you to pause the video and I want you to fill in what you think the quart value is. Go ahead and press pause now. All right, I went ahead and filled out the first one for you. Boys and girls, you can see that there are 4 quarts in each gallon. So my relationship will be, for every gallon, you'll have 4 quarts. So it's like saying G times 4 would give me the number of quarts. So let's plug in the variable of G as the number 4. And if we follow this pattern, 4 times 4 is 16. But what if we plug in 8 as our G's variable? Then you would have G times 4 is what? Well, let's plug 8 right here, and you would have 8 times 4. You should have plugged in 32. And our last one is 12. If we plug 12 as our variable for our gallons, 12 times 4 is 48. So you should have ended up with 48 as your number of quarts for a 12-gallon fish tank. All right, friends, for our next question, it says, Hannah is 52 inches tall. Hannah's brother Sam is 3 inches taller than she is. What is Sam's height in feet and in inches? Boys and girls, you can use this conversion chart to find this multi-step problem. I would like for you to push pause, and I would like for you to try this on your own before we check it together. Go ahead and press pause now. All right, friends, you should have known that if Sam is 3 inches taller than she is, then your first step would be to write 52 plus 3. Now that would give us Sam's height in inches. 52 plus 3 is 55. That's part 1. We know Sam was 55 inches tall. However, our job is to convert this into feet and inches. So I want to go from a small unit to a larger unit. And remember, when you go from small to large, you divide. So boys and girls, you should have done 55 inches divided by 12. And the reason why I chose 12 is because if you looked over here, you would see that 12 inches equals 1 foot. And because you're converting inches into feet, then you would divide by 12 inches. So let's go ahead and do the division. 12 goes into 55 inches. I know 12 times 4 is 48. If I did 12 times 5, it would have been 60, and that would have been way too much. So let's go ahead and subtract. All right. Now I can see that I have 4 feet and 7 inches left over for Sam's height. Therefore, Sam is 4 feet and 7 inches tall. I hope that's what you got on your paper too. Let's go to our last question. All right, boys and girls, I have provided this metric system chart for you to help you on this next question. It says, Jenna used 4 7/75 meters of fabric to make a costume. So we're looking at this basic unit right here of meters. How many millimeters of fabric did she use? Here's our millimeters right down here. Remember in class in lesson 5, we talked about how you can convert meters to millimeters. I want to see how much you can remember by pausing the video and doing this on your own. And when we check together, I'll explain how to do this. Go ahead and press pause now. Okay, boys and girls, because we're going from meters to millimeters, we're going from a large unit to a smaller unit. And we want to see how much we're going to be decreasing by. 1 power of 10, 2 powers of 10, 3 powers of 10. And remember, when you go from a large to a small, you multiply. So boys and girls, your question is 4 7/75 times the 3rd power of 10, also known as 4 7/75 times 1,000, because it's 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times greater. So boys and girls, remember we talked about in class that when you go from a large to a small, you multiply. And we've also talked about when you multiply, you move your decimal to the right. So I'm going to take this decimal point and I'm going to move it to the right 3 places because I have 3 zeros in 1,000. I also have a 3 as my exponent there to remind me. So I'm going to take this decimal point right here and I'm going to move it 1 place, 2 place, and remember we have to add an imaginary 0,
And so that would actually be a third place. So now my decimal point would end up right there. So you should have the answer as 4,750 millimeters of fabric that she used. I hope this is your answer as well. So boys and girls, we covered a lot of questions tonight, and I'm thanking you for doing them along with me, and I hope that you took your time and paused the video to do them on your own, so that way you know how well you did. Tomorrow in class, we will be taking our test. If you struggled on any of these topics tonight, remember you can always go back and re-watch the videos from this chapter to remind you how to do them. Please bring your paper tomorrow to show that you did the video along with me to get your homework credit. All right, have a great night's sleep, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.